Hello everyone, I'm very glad that you listened to my story. Please give me a follow and like the video if you enjoyed it. Feel free to comment and provide feedback so I can improve the sound quality. Yes, I will now continue the unfinished story. Chapter 15 Changes. After resolving the morning snack incident, Celia prepared the working table for the remaining game. The birds you caught are called blinkers, because they get scared easily and are very quick to fly away. Usually you need luck and skill to take them down from a distance. Whatever magic you performed, it made a clean kill. Aside from the broken neck, both the feathers and the body are unscathed. Lith accepted the compliment with a small bowing. It's just a matter of finesse in using air magic, nothing special. Celia's curiosity was far from being satisfied, but she decided not to pry further. Scalding is easy and quick. You only need to throw the poultry in the cauldron for about 45 seconds. It's better to gently stir the water in the process, to clean the birds from dirt and external parasites. It also helps loosening most of the feathers. Never scald too long, or the meat could start to boil. Not to mention the risk of rupturing the organs, ruining the meat. Lith took charge of the scalding process, waving his right hand to take control of the water in the cauldron, stirring it and adjusting the force of the current according to Celia's directions. Damn it, kid. You are really starting to make me regret to have never given a damn about magic or learning it. You don't know how to use magic. Lith was astonished. No, and before today I was proud of it. I consider chore magic a simple parlor trick. Why waste my time learning how to do things with it when I get faster and better results by using my hands? Celia shrugged. Now get the blinkers out of the water, time to get serious. Beside the scalding and the plucking that replaced the skinning process, gutting poultry resulted really similar to his previous experience with the squirrel, except he had also to remove to crop, the neck and the oil gland. Once they finished, Litha's eyes enjoyed the results, noticing that aside from the blinker's skin being a little more porous compared to a chicken's, it was just a roast away from what he would purchase back on Earth. How do I cook it? Still hungry even after 2 squirrels? Yes, very. The previous meal was just an appetizer, he was far from satisfied. Please, let's use the outdoor campfire. I need to get used to not using a fireplace. Celia slammed her hand on her forehead. Right, right. I almost forgot about your family issues. After instructing him how to choose the right spot for a campfire, she showed him how to improvise a kebab with wood sticks. The final lesson was about how high to set the kebab to avoid burning the food and how to recognize when it was ready to be eaten. After memorizing everything, Lith imbued his eyes with fire magic, activating the fire vision spell, that granted him an improved version of thermal goggles. He then started to weave together fire and wind magic, keeping the heat stable with no hot or cold spots, while using air currents to cook every nook and cranny of the meat evenly. Such fine control required for him to move both his hands and feet, to watch his meal from different angles and adjusting the mana flow. His movements were akin to a combination of martial arts katas. Celia was about to mock him about how performing a victory dance for a single blinker was a little extreme, when the delicious smell reached her nose. The blinker was getting roasted with a speed visible to the naked eye, the skin turning into a crispy crust, releasing the fat that was masterfully spreaded evenly. The smell was so good that her stomach started grumbling, despite she had consumed her breakfast less than 2 hours ago. Lith lifted the skewer with spirit magic and after lowering the temperature to avoid burning himself while eating, he started wolfing down the meat, ripping it apart with his bare hands. First the drumsticks, then the breast and lastly the wings. It lacked salt, and the meat wasn't as tender as a roasted chicken since they had not let the meat undergo any maturation. Nonetheless, it was the best meal Lith had ever had. I can't believe it, I cannot feel the hunger anymore. Lith fell to his knees from the happiness, his eyes wet on the verge of shedding tears. But that moment passed quickly. I need more. I can't allow the hunger to cripple me again. Lith looked at the sun. There were still a couple of hours before noon. He had still time for more hunting. Master Cilia, I need a favor. I need a place to hide my own game, the one I am not willing to share. Just call me Cilia. Hunters do not waste time with honorifics, we are practical people. She waved her hand, dismissing the need for a title. As for your request, I don't make favors, only deals. What about this? From tomorrow onwards you will come here every day and clean my house, and maybe from time to time cook something for me with that silly dance of yours. In exchange, I will keep your personal meat safe and sound, and whenever you cook for me, we will share the meal evenly. Deal? Cilia offered him her hand. It was still a rip-off, but it was his only option. Deal? I have only one rule. I don't do laundry. In the next days Litha's house resounded with much more laughter and joy than usual. Him bringing game home had raised some questions, but nothing he couldn't explain easily. The food helped everyone to relax and let go of the stress of the past. Even Lith and Orpal started to smooth over their relationship, limiting the glares and insults to a couple every day. But more importantly, Lith could finally start practicing martial arts again. His routine was very simple: hunting in the morning, magical training in the afternoon, martial arts at night. Thanks to the invigoration breathing technique, Lith was now able to stay up for almost a week before being forced to rest. He would sneak out of the house as soon as life vision spell confirmed that everyone was asleep. Once outside he would create mud dummies with earth magic to both practice martial techniques and temper his body. His first priority was the footwork. Maybe it was because he was only 4 years old, or maybe it was the lack of activity due to the previous constant hunger, but his body was embarrassingly clumsy and lacked coordination. Whenever someone threw anything at him, even a chestnut from a meter away, 3 feet, he would either miss it entirely or dunk it on the floor. Lith knew that despite his spellcasting was very quick, especially spirit magic, it was not instant. He could not afford to become a sitting duck as soon as someone closed in too much. Learning magic was powerful, but not omnipotent. What good could possibly do to him being able to topple mountains only to get killed by a random thug that managed to snuck up on him? Even back on Earth, Lith had always thought that considering mind and body as separate entities was dumb. Exercise had always allowed him to relieve his stress and relax his mind. Exactly like studying always allowed him to perform at his best, be it at work or martial arts. Brute strength was just violence, pure intellect just ideas with no substance. Only when mind and body were trained together the body could perform as the mind required. About a week after Lith had begun training, something happened. He was alone at night, practicing footwork by circling around the dummies, when he felt that something was wrong. Pain burst from his monocore and quickly spreaded to his whole body, accompanied by a head-spinning nausea like he had never experienced before. "What's happening to me?" he screamed inwardly. "This can't be a bottleneck, the last one resolved just yesterday, and no bottleneck ever felt like this." Soon he started gasping for air, incapable to stand up anymore and writhing in pain. "I can't die. I don't want to die again, not after enduring so much. I refuse to become some slave in a distant galaxy or an old man waiting for death. I had enough. I refuse to die." He used all his willpower to convert every iota of his mana into light magic, fighting off the affliction that was tormenting him, but to no avail. The pain got worse and worse, his power incapable of keeping up. When he surrendered, the burning sensation was finally free to rise all the way up to his mouth. Then he started puking lumps of a black, sticky substance that looked like tar but smelled like something had died and rotted for weeks under the summer heat. They were the size of a nut, but the strain he felt was akin to have barfed 2 elephants walking side by side. The stench was so bad that even in his incapacitated state he found the strength to summon some dark magic to destroy them without leaving traces. Lith spent the next minutes spitting, drinking, even eating grass to get rid of that revolting taste in his mouth. When everything returned normal, Lith was too exhausted to practice, so he had to use invigoration to return his body to peak condition. As soon as Lith started executing the breathing technique, he discovered that he was now able to sense his mana core with much greater clarity. While absorbing the world energy with invigoration, he could feel and manipulate the mana flowing through his blood vessels and his organs to the point of visualize even the residual magic in his hair. Despite his eyes being closed shut, Lith could see inside his body as he was observing a state-of-the-art full-body scan 3D. Still dizzy, he tried performing the footwork exercise again. Lith's movements were still far from perfect, but he no longer felt like having two left feet. It's an amazing improvement considering that until a minute ago my goal was stop tripping on my own feet. I wonder. Lith stretched forward, his right hand opened, applying spirit magic to the head of the dummies. The best I could do before, with so many targets at once, was to squeeze them a little. And now? He clenched his fist, faster and harder than ever before. The dummies' heads popped like balloons. Chapter 16 Encounters. During the following days, Lith made several discoveries about the changes he had undergone. His body felt lighter than ever, all his physical abilities augmented, all his senses sharper and heightened, compared to before. There had also been cosmetic changes in his appearance. The moles on his body had visibly shrank, his skin was smoother than after a spa treatment back on Earth, and most of the freckles around his nose and eyes had disappeared. Lith took note of all these changes, trying to understand what had happened, but he could not care less about beautifying effects. Even with no moles and freckles at all, he would still look like a crude hillbilly. If his mother had passed anything to him, he was unable to notice. Unlike his sisters, Lith had nothing of her beauty or grace. Alina moved like a ballerina, while he was rough and clumsy enough to feel like a caveman. Lith had deep-set eyes like his father, a high forehead and a nose a little too big to be proportionate to his visage. He wasn't ugly but not even cute. The best he could give himself was a solid 6 out of 10. Lith's only hope for improvement was the teenage growth spurt, to get rid of his thin and scrawny build. Figuring out the changes in the mana core required even more time. Lith understood that his mana had undergone a qualitative change, becoming purer and denser. This allowed him to cast stronger spells, also reducing the time he needed manipulate elemental and spirit magic, resulting in faster casting speed. Through Invigorate, he could now spot the presence of that tar-like material scattered all around his body, in his organs, blood vessels, and even in the neural pathway. Whenever he used the accumulation technique, he could feel the smaller tar-like particles being pulled toward the mana core, while the bigger ones would fragment over time, shrinking in size before actually moving. Confident in his new strength, Lith started getting deeper in the woods, hunting for bigger preys. He was no longer afraid of predators. Instead of avoiding them, he started looking out for them. Lith wanted for his family to have enough fur to make a set of warm clothes for everyone. He was sick of being forced to wear so many layers of clothes during winter, that he was unable to walk properly, swinging every step like a penguin. The problem was that Lith still moved through the forest making a lot of noise, exuding enough killing intent to scare away anything that wasn't stupid or desperate enough to stand in his way. It was only thanks to the life vision spell combined with spirit magic that he was still capable of hunting. The spirit magic range had expanded to over 30 meters, 32.8 yards, range, so he could easily kill any animal that tried to escape by climbing trees or by taking flight. When Lith wasn't able to catch anything, he would shoot down any bird that made the mistake of flying within his scope. One day, Lith was exploring a new area of the Tron woods, hoping to find a fur-wearing meal, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. While looking at a small mound, his life vision spotted 3 life forces hiding a few meters underground. They were not strong enough to be predators, but they were big enough to be a perfect lunch. If those are rodents or other smart animals, there could be more than one exit. I have no time to waste, I'll force them out. After getting on the highest spot of the mound, always keeping both eyes on the prize, he used earth magic. Magna. The ground around him started to shake, making the burrow and the small tunnels collapse. The creatures started panicking, taking the most direct route out. Lith started running, following their underground movements as close as possible, not letting them get out of the spirit magic range. From a well-hidden hole near a bush, came out 3 big fat rabbits, 2 of them still wearing a snow-white fur. Lucky! Lith screamed while snapping his fingers, forcing the rabbit's neck to a 180 degrees turn. I'll keep the brown-white one for myself, while I'll trade the other 2 pelts with Celia for some fur of lesser quality but much more quantity. Today is really my lucky day. Lith was so used being alone in the woods to always think out loud, to break the feeling of isolation. He hung the rabbits to his belt by the ears and started walking toward Celia's house. After a few steps, Lith heard an odd sound closing in. He had never heard it before, so he started looking around for its source. Soon he could see 2 horses in the distance, galloping in his direction. F***ck. It seems I have been too loud. Fight or flight? To answer his own question, he activated life vision again. The horses were just horses, while the men were far from impressive. The one taking point was barely as strong as Celia, while the one behind was even weaker than Raz, Litha's father. Lith forced himself hiding a cruel smile. Well, well. My first encounter with complete strangers in this new world. Are they good people? I bet that humans are humans everywhere. This would mean that they are a-holes. I can't wait to find out. Lith stood there, waiting for them to arrive. The first man was clearly a servant, dressed in a hunter suit made of leather of low quality with a crest on both his chest and shoulders. He was an unshaven middle-aged man, with pitch-black short hair, mean and angry eyes sitting on a face worthy of a mugshot. The one behind him was dressed with a suit of much better quality, probably brand new. He wore the same crest on his chest, but this one seemed to be made of silk and gold embroidered. He was a kid maybe 16 years old, with a handsome face and the build of a swimsuit model. The tight-fitting leather emphasized his muscular body moving in tune with his horse. Lith felt really pissed off, and he knew exactly why. I really hope he is as much of a d*ck as he is handsome. Otherwise not only I will be forced to start to believe in Prince Charming, but I will also die of envy. Hey, kid. The servant had a rude tone of voice. What was that noise from before? Lith put on his best innocent expression, playing wolf in sheep clothes. Good day, sir. It was just me hunting. I'm sorry if I scared you. Litha's voice sounded genuinely apologetic. He wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt. Where did you get those? He said, ignoring Lith's apologies and pointing at the rabbits. From a rabbit hole. They are my game. Lith smiled, keeping watch on both of them. Give them to us, now. They will make a perfect muff for my mother. The handsome youth had also a beautiful voice. If you are really sorry, you should offer us proper compensation. Even a commoner like you should know the basics of decency. He said with a mocking smile. Lith dropped the act like a live grenade. Seriously? Robbing a kid in broad daylight? Don't you have any shame? Kid. The servant rebuked. Do you know who are you talking to? He is the son of Baron Wrath, lord of these lands. Lith started laughing out loud. Please. Tronwoods has no owner, except maybe Count Lark. Stop spewing bullshit just to cover your sorry ass. And besides, do you know whom are you talking to? I am the Supreme Mage. See what happens when you waste your breath on commoners, Korth. The young noble took up the short bow he carried on his back, knocking an arrow. They are just too stupid, it's in the nature of things. He shot the arrow with perfect aim towards Litha's heart. But Lith was far enough, and had kept many spells ready on his fingertips. With a wave of his hand, a strong gust of wind hit the arrow on the side, making it spin out of control before harmlessly hitting the ground meters away from its intended target. Despite being flabbergasted, the young noble was able to keep his cool, knocking another arrow while ordering Korth to kill the kid. Lith raised his left hand, freezing Korth in place with spirit magic, while with the right he took control of the arrow, that slipped away from the youth's fingers before stabbing him in the eye. The youth fell from his horse, screaming in pain. To think that I even bothered giving you guys a chance to get out of here alive. Lith sighed, shaking his head. Wait. If you kill the young lord, you and whoever you love will die. Think about it. Lith started laughing again. Really? And how could they ever find out what happened here? Lith moved his left thumb, and Korth noticed with horror that his right hand was moving against his will, unsheathing the hunting knife he carried at his belt. Wait, please. Have mercy. Don't do this, you are just a kid. He begged. So, when you want to kill, you kill. But when you lose, I am supposed to show mercy. The spite in his voice was palpable. Lith lowered his ring finger, bringing the knife at Korth's throat. Since you are just a servant, I'll give you a clean death. With a flicker of the little finger, Lith forced Korth to cut his throat from ear to ear. Then he approached the young noble that was still writhing in pain, uncaring of what just happened to his loyal servant. As for you, you are the kind of guy I hate the most. With one hand Lith kept him frozen at mid-air, while he used the other to punch him non-stop. You have asterisking everything. Money, beauty, a bright future, and all you can do with such treasures is screw those who are already struggling to survive. Lith hated humans more than everything. Even back on Earth the only thing keeping his rage in check was his responsibilities towards his family. But in the new world there was no cameras, no GPS, nothing. There was only power, and for once he was the one holding it. You know, I have a very ill sister. Lith said after venting out. I could never practice darkness magic on living beings, because using it on animals is just plain cruel. You, on the other side, are just a monster with the face of a man. You will make a perfect specimen for my research. Tronwoods resounded with screams for hours before death could come to claim her prize. Chapter 17 Encounters 2. While Lith was approaching Celia's house, he felt a profound sense of shame tormenting him. It's a shame to waste so much good equipment and horse meat, but I have no plausible excuse for it. Our farm could really use a couple of horses, but what if someone recognized them? Too many risks for so little reward. Destroying everything was the right thing to do. Once he had finished with his experiments, Lith used darkness magic to wipe out any trace or proof of what happened, turning everything into dust. Celia was so excited seeing the two rabbits to let slip her dire need for them, to fill the order of a very generous client. Respecting his master's teachings, Lith exploited the situation. Hunters don't do favors, they make deals. He quoted. In exchange for the snow-white rabbits, Lith managed to get a full set of warm clothes of lower quality, and Celia would personally tan the remaining pelt for free. That and the 3 rabbits ready for the cooking earned him great praise from his family, except Orpal. Over time he had started to consider all the food that Lith brought home for granted, so his hatred and envy returned stronger than ever. That little leech. Hunting with magic is easy, any idiot could do it. Everything he does is a slap in my face. I never get the respect that I deserve as the firstborn, and it's all his fault. First, he flaunts his luck hunting, then he plays martyr, asking mother and father to let that piece of trash of Tista be the first to have fur clothes. What can Tista possibly do with them? Getting ill with style? No, Lith did it on purpose. He knows that my stupid parents still resent me for telling the truth about that cripple. Lith did it only to make me lose face compared to him. The truth was quite different from Orpal's self-centered interpretation. Lith really loved Alina, mother, Rena, big sister, and Tista, ill sister, while Orpal was never on his mind. He cured anyone in the family without being asked to, except for Orpal. But not out of spite or anger, but simply because his existence was irrelevant in Litha's eyes. If Orpal lived or died, it was not his problem. He would not do anything to harm him, but would not help him either. For Lith they were complete strangers living in the same home. The reason why he had wanted Tista to be the first to benefit from his luck, was that Lith hoped that with warm enough clothes his sister could finally spend more time with him and Rena during winter, playing in the snow. In Litha's eyes the image of Karl would often overlap on Tista's visage. He loved them deeply, and both of them were victims of a cruel fate. Lith wasn't willing to let anyone or anything, not even a congenital condition, take his loved ones away from him. He suffered at the thought of how little of life she could enjoy. To give Tista the opportunity to experience speed and the feeling of the wind on her face, Lith built for her a swing with the help of their father, Raz. It was nothing special, just a wooden plank attached to 4 tight ropes hanging from a reversed U-shaped wooden framework with triangular standings. Yet the result was awe-inspiring for his family. Swings seemed to be unknown in the New World, or at least they were in the Lustria County. Raz looked at the result of their work in admiration. "It's amazing. Why the 3 wooden beams instead of just 1? "Safety reasons," Lith explained while using earth magic to make the last 10 centimeters, 3.9 inches, of the beam sink underground, making the swing impossible to topple by bad weather or a too vigorous movement. That way both ends are like a chair. Multiple legs mean that the weight is equally distributed among multiple beams, making the stress per beam significantly inferior. Of course. Now that you explained it is so simple. By the way, how do we call this thing? Lith was at loss for words. He had no idea what the word for the swing movement was and he could not ask that now. Air. It's a rocking chair. Damn it, why I always screw up with the little details. That's not a rocking chair, but it's the closest thing I could think about with my current vocabulary. Tista fell in love with his present, and the rocking chair became soon a popular pastime in the family, to the point that Raz had to build a couple more to avoid quarrels. Furthermore, after his experiments with dark magic, Lith spent the following months trying to apply both life vision and invigoration while treating Tista's symptoms. If I can manage to have for Tista's body the same imaging that invigoration grants me for my own body, I could have a better understanding of her underlying condition. That would mean having much better chances of finding a cure. In the blink of an eye it was almost winter again. Litha's 5th birthday was approaching. Lith was determined to capitalize on every single day before the great cold arrived, to catch as much game he could to fill the house's storeroom to the brim. He had no idea how cold the incoming winter would be, and even if he was probably strong enough to survive a storm, he doubted his parents would allow him to test his theory. During the last year Lith had explored more and more of the Tron woods, learning how to move without alarming the animals. He had also discovered new uses for dark magic. His newest spell, the Shroud, allowed him to cancel out his body smell and aura by enveloping Lith in thin layer of dark energy, making impossible for most animals to notice him, either by nose or instinct. But it wasn't an easy task. Even a small misstep would turn the Shroud into full-blown killing intent, making the whole woods aware of his presence. That day Lith was raiding a new area, deep in the Tron woods, investigating an odd feeling that had tormented him for days. In certain areas of the woods, Lith could hear an annoying buzzing sound, and until that day he had always ignored it. Lith had always thought that it was the call of some weird, unknown animal, but in the last days the noise had gotten stronger and persistent. Damn, whatever this is, it reminds me of my desktop's uninterruptible power supply unit whenever there was a blackout. It's ear-piercing. Lith could not help but to imagine it as a desperate cry for help. He did not understand how he got that idea, but his gut was telling him that it was something important. Ever since Lith had learned martial arts back on Earth, he had always followed his gut feelings when he had nothing to lose, and this was definitely the case. The closer he got, the louder the noise. Lith knew he was on the right path. He was running at full speed when he heard a bone-chilling howl. Lith immediately used two of his life-saving spells, Shroud to conceal himself, and the air spell Light's Feet to float a few centimeters above the ground, making his movements noiseless. Both required a lot of concentration, but it was better to spend some mana rather than stupidly endangering himself. Calm and focused, he searched for the source of all that noise. Holy sh*t. That's a re. Lith exclaimed inwardly after quickly hiding behind a huge tree. A re was a magical wolf beast, the apex predator of the Tron woods. Magical beasts were more common and weaker than monsters, but they could still easily take apart a fully armed soldier. Not many animals could turn into a magical beast, they needed a great talent for magic and enough time to feed off the world energy. Once an animal became a magical beast, it could use its mana to boost its physical prowess and even developing spells that employed elements they were attuned with. The re was almost as big as horse, with a fire-colored thick fur. Lith could not understand why a re would come so close to a human settling. Ris were intelligent beasts that avoided unnecessary trouble. If humans did not disturb them, they would return the favor. Lith felt pity for its prey. After making sure being upwind, he cancelled both spells to save precious mana, getting a better understanding of the situation. The re kept howling and growling, as it was in pain. Lith noticed that every time the re's snout got close to the ground, the buzzing sound would become high-pitched and the magical wolf would whine in pain. Now more curious than afraid, Lith activated life vision to estimate the re's power. What he saw made him gasp loudly. The re was unbelievably strong, with a mana flow almost on par with Lith's. But the real reason for amazement was a second mana flow, that belonged to the source of the buzzing sound. It was a little stone, smaller than a thimble. What the f***ck? That pebble is alive? That explains everything. The noise it emitted must have lured here the re, just like it did for me. Taking into account its reactions, the noise is much more annoying for the re than for me. I never heard of rocks with mana flow, that thing must be a magical item. I cannot let that brute destroy it. Throwing caution to the wind, Lith decided to take action and save the magic stone. The re's life force is incomparable to mine, but if I manage to avoid it getting close, I know I can win. His mana flow is inferior to mine, and from what Celia told me, magic beasts have no offensive spells. First Lith activated Shroud again, then he started weaving his strongest spell. Plague Arrow. A bolt of dark energy flew from his joined hands, hitting the re from its blind spot while it was trying again to crack the noisy stone with its teeth. The screeching sound and the spell hit both at the same time, making the magical beast almost lose its footing. Plague Arrow was a spell that injected a dense mass of darkness magic in the victim, disrupting both the mana flow and the life force. Lith had charged it as much as he could, to get as much advantage as he could. Before the re could turn around to search for its enemy, a stream of lightnings erupted from Lith's palms, hitting the magical beast with enough strength to knock it down. While increasing the distance between them, Lith cancelled Shroud for life vision. Despite the sneak attacks, the re was still alive and strong. Lith focused his spirit magic, using both his hands, trying to break its neck as he had already done countless times. The re wasn't stupid. As soon as it felt the ominous sensation on his neck, it contracted its muscles, reinforcing it with mana and making it harder than steel. f***ck. So much for my advantage. If only I could use fire magic, you would be already roasted to death. Could you please go away? That thing is mine. Mine. Lith conjured several ice javelins, throwing them at the magical beast from multiple angles simultaneously. The re easily dodged them all, retaliating with a powerful magical roar. Lith was only saved by the distance, having the time to realize that a massive wind blast was heading his way. He stepped back at the moment of the impact, using his own wind magic to dissipate the blast. His sleeves got turned into confetti, but aside from some flesh wounds he was fine. F*** me sideways. Thanks a lot, Cilia. Magical beasts do not have offensive spells, sure. It seems this re never got the memo, though. The re charged at Lith, using its wind blasts to disrupt his rhythm. Lith did his best to keep the beast at bay, but the difference in physical prowess was overwhelming. It was only a matter of time before getting caught. Okay, when you can't win, just run. Plan B, fight dirty. Lith stopped running away, to prepare his last attack plan before throwing the towel. He conjured many ice javelins, but did not throw them. He left them floating in mid-air all around him. After a moment of hesitation, the Re chose to ignore them, charging straight at that insolent pest. That's a good boy. Eat this. Twin spell. Flash and bang. Litha's right hand produced a massive flash of light. For a moment it was like a second sun had appeared. His left hand, instead, used wind magic to produce a noise comparable to an explosion. The Re tumbled from the pain, its eyes and ears bleeding, while Lith was unscathed. He had learned long ago that as long it was infused with his mana, his own spells would do him no harm. He could cover himself in fire, ice, or lightning without a scratch. When the Re crashed against a tree, Lith finally used the javelins, throwing them with all the force he had. All of them hit the target, but the thick magical fur prevented them from impaling it, piercing only through a few centimeters of flesh. Lith immediately checked with life vision, the results appalling. The Re was definitely wounded and weakened, but far from being dead. Damn it. So much effort for so little damage. If it continues like this, I am the one who is most likely to run out of steam or luck. The Re only needs one hit to kill me. It's not worth the risk. Lith used spirit magic to recover the magic stone before running for his life. The stone was full of teeth marks, its sharp surface prickled Litha's skin. So long, sucker. Lith screamed at the still stunned magical beast. See you again in a few years, let's see if you dare attack me again. Small drops of blood touched the stone, and the noise stopped. The Re was still trying to make head or tails of what had just happened. It only wanted the damn noise to stop hurting his ears when that fierce man pup showed up. The Re had tried to scare him away and to teach him a lesson, but it ended to be the one getting schooled instead. Bah, who cares? The Re thought. I wanted to get rid of that stupid rock, and in one way or another I got the job done. That was one feisty pup, though. I pray that he shows more consideration towards his pack than he did for me. Otherwise, when he grows up, he will be a scourge to his kin. Stupid humans and their greed bring only troubles. They are incapable even of taking care of their own. The Re, leader of all the packs in the Tron Woods, shrugged away the javelins before returning to its family. Chapter 18 New Solutions, New Problems. Lith kept running until he was out of the woods, turning his head from time to time to check with life vision as he was being followed. There is no trace of the Re, but better safe than sorry. I'm afraid I have pissed off that thing quite bad. It's better to give it some time to vent off and search for easier preys. He was near Cilia's house, when he finally remembered about the magical stone. Lith activated life vision, getting a good look up close. The first thing he noticed was that the rough edges on the stone had smoothened up. It did not prick his skin anymore. The surface was still rough, but now looked like a stone marble. The buzzing sound had stopped from a while, and the magical stone's life force, despite being still at the same level, had changed significantly. Back when he saw it for the first time, its life force was like a candle about to burn out of wax. Now it had become steady, with a regular pulse. Warning Cilia about the magical beast took priority, so he hid the stone in a leather pouch he always carried at his neck before knocking at her door. Lith explained her everything, describing in detail the size and power of the Re, leaving her flabbergasted. Of course, he never mentioned their fight. Lith told her that he had fled as soon as their eyes met, and that he got away only thanks to his magic, showing his tattered sleeves as proof. Good gods, Kid. She still refused to call him by his name. You have been really lucky it took it easy on you. Had the re decided to give you chase, we would not be having this conversation. Nonetheless, thanks for warning me first, instead of going to your parents. Celia ruffled his hair. How do you know I came here first? Because if you didn't, your parents would have probably locked you up in your house, and one of them would have come here to warn me in your place. Lith froze up. He had just dodged a bullet much scarier than any re. You are right. Is better not to tell them, otherwise my hunting days may be over forever. Yeah. I suggest you taking the rest of the morning off. Make up an excuse for those sleeves and go home. Celia walked over the shed near her house where she kept her game Matu rating. Take these as a thank you for the heads up. She handed him a rabbit and a blinker, ready to be cooked. I was about to go in the woods. I think I will follow my advice, instead, and keep tanning the remaining pelts. I'll go to hunting in the afternoon, when it should be safer. Lith thanked her with a deep bow. He knew how precious meat was in Lucia, even for a huntress as good as Celia. Not to mention she had just saved him from perpetual house arrests. He spent the rest of the morning trying to understand how to use the magic stone. It appeared to be feeding off Litha's mana. Not leeching it like a parasite, more like nibbling at the mana that he naturally released being talented in magic. The stone would simply breathe in what Litha's body breathed out, nothing more. Lith tried injecting mana into it, but to no avail. Then he cast elemental spells while holding the stone, to check if their strength, cast speed, and area of effect were affected in any way. All of his experiments gave no results. The stone looked just like any other. Stones do not have such a clear mana flow, and certainly they do not have any life force. Maybe this thing needs time to heal, to recharge, or something. The re messed it up quite bad. Let's hope is not broken. Unless it starts harming me, I'll keep it. Maybe is some kind of treasure, or maybe I can find something about it on Nana's books. I just have to be patient. The last days of autumn passed on uneventful, until winter arrived. Having reached the 5 years of age, Lith revealed a little more of his magic talents, proving to be invaluable to his family. He would wake up first and warm up the whole house with magic, even the floors. At that point the fireplace was lit only because was cozy, and because rounding up around the fire, especially during the stormy winter evenings, was a family tradition. Even the cooking was entrusted to Lith. Alina would prepare the meal, and Lith would cook it faster and better than a ventilated oven, keeping the soup warm for everyone during the whole meal. He could not go hunting anymore because of the bad weather. His parents had been adamant on that. But Lith could still go to Celia's house to perform the chores for her. During the last year, she had become so lazy to become dependent on Lith for keeping her house clean and her tools sterilized. This meant killing 2 birds with 1 stone for Lith. Now he had an excuse to go fetch his private stock of meat whenever he got hungry, and Celia had to pay him for the chores. Lith would do it for free, just to get out of the house, but his parents would not agree. So, Celia paid him a few copper coins to clean her house, and some more for Alina to do her laundry. Both Alina and Raz would welcome any extra income, and doing the laundry for 8 instead of 7 wasn't much an effort. Especially since Lith provided her an endless supply of hot water. Nice to meet you, I am Lith, Boiler Supreme. He would grumble inwardly every time. In the first weeks of winter, Lith made a very important breakthrough. He finally understood how to use Invigoration's body imaging on others. He was now able to let his mana seep into another person's body, and slowly take control of their mana flow, allowing Lith to know everything about the subject's physical condition. The only way to achieve such a result was to keep physical contact, searching way-ins for the mana without harming him/her. Lith immediately used it on Tista, and his findings were appalling. Her body was full of the tar-like substance, that for the lack of a better term, he had dubbed impurities. And the cause of that was her lungs. Barely half of Tista's lungs were made up by a healthy tissue. The rest appeared like a black-brown mass that actively produced impurities, that over time filled the healthy tissues of her lungs and windpipe, making her cough first and ill later. After giving it some thought, Lith was sure to have found a fix better than everything he had done before, but much more embarrassing. Even though now his real age was that of a 30-year-old man, he was still in a 5-year-old body, which found extremely uncomfortable the idea of speaking of certain matters, especially with the family women. After some deep breaths to calm down, he called Raz and Alina to ask for their help and permission. He had to dumb down the procedure quite a lot to get them to understand. Basically, I cannot cure Tista, not yet. But I discovered a way that should make her feel much better. In the best case scenario, she could even get rid of most of her symptoms. And in the worst case scenario? Raz asked, full of worries. At worst she will be the same. That's I'm certain of it. But I need you to trust me. Contrary to his expectations, they did not make any objections or question. Their trust in Litha's mastery of magic was boundless, and in their eyes, he was just a 5-year-old, while Tista was barely 7. She had yet to mature in every way. For them it was like yesterday when they bathed together in the wash tub. The first phase was the easiest. Lith would take control of Tista's mana flow, overloading her body with his mana, and forcing the impurities to move away from the inner organs and toward the skin. She would just feel hot the whole time, like having a mild fever. Once most of the impurities were about to surface, Lith demanded to be blindfolded and that either Alina or Rina witness the process. Tista was just a kid, and Lith feared that over time suspicions might arise. During Earth's Middle Ages, incestuous relationships were disgustingly common, and he rejected even the idea of being thought of as a pervert. The second and last phase required Tista to be soaking in the wash tub, that had been previously filled by Lith with hot water and soap. He clearly remembered the stench the impurities gave off, and during winter ventilating the house was difficult, especially in Tista's condition. Cold was her worst enemy. Then, he could finally extract the impurities by using water magic, creating and manipulating flows that would massage Tista all over her body. Lith would destroy the impurities as soon as possible with dark magic, preventing them to release their smell. It was a difficult process that required using water and darkness magic, all while keeping invigoration active. After the treatment, he would also use water magic to remove all the water still on her body, and then mix fire and wind magic to obtain a makeshift hair dryer. When it was finally over, Tista looked like she was just back from a spa, while Lith looked like he had just got back from mining, drenched in sweat and out of breath. "How do you feel?" Tista made some deep breaths. "I never felt so good. Like, ever. Also, I always dreamt of having a winter bath, instead of having to resort to warm water-soaked towels. Thanks, lil bro, you just made 2 of my wishes come true." She tried to hug him, but he raised his arms in defense. "Please, no. I'm disgusting right now, do not ruin my hard work. I now need a bath, some food, and 2 hours rest, minimum." Both his mother and big sister nodded. "Lith, dear, what was that thing with the water that you did?" Alina asked. "Do you mean the—" Damn it, I can't tell her I was imitating a hydro massage, they do not have Latin here. Nor I can call it a jacuzzi or something. Whatever, I'm too tired for this sh*t. Water massage. Yes, that. It seemed so relaxing. Tista has fallen asleep many times during her treatment. Sure, it must be pleasant. Rina's words were filled with expectation. And that thing for drying her hair, could you do that again too? Alina raised the ante, their aim more and more obvious by the second. Lith was on the verge of collapsing, he had no time to spare with niceties. "Are you implying that you would like a hot water massage too?" More nodding followed, their hands joined in a silent plea. But, Lith stuttered. Both of you are. He was trying to find a polite way to say hot. Lith could still remember Alina's naked body when he was still an infant, and she had aged very well. Rena was now 11. Maybe it was the countryside lifestyle, maybe it was related to the new world, but she had already begun her growth spurt, developing some curves, being nice and soft in all the right places. Lith already had so many qualms for his little sister, and Tista was as flat as a board, only her long hairs gave her away as a girl instead of a boy. We are family. And all of us have dreamt of being able to take a bath during winter without catching a cold or worse. You have no idea how smelly we become by working in the barn, surrounded by the livestock smell and their dung. Sometimes the smell is so bad we can't even sleep at night. Couldn't you help us too? Alina, his mother, completely oblivious of Litha's worries, tried to play the guilt card. Lith gave up. Fine, just let me rest a bit and then I'll help you. But you still need to blindfold me, and I demand a witness. They both started laughing out loud. Why so many qualms? You are just a baby, not some thug. I would like to say that I am a gentleman, but I do not know the word for it. I could say that I am a man, but that would make them laugh even harder. Stupid 5-year-old body. He thought. Decorum. It was the only word in his vocabulary he could resort to. Damn, this is going to be a freaking long winter. Chapter 19 Conflicts. As Lith predicted, his fifth winter revealed to be quite interesting. Treating Tista's condition required 2 sessions per week minimum, each one lasting around 4 hours. 2 for the treatment itself and the remaining time for him to bathe and recover his strength. Manipulating Tista's mana flow while simultaneously using fire, water, and dark magic took its toll every time. The good news was that with so much practice, he was becoming accustomed to casting and maintaining several spells active at once. Every treatment was easier than the previous one and her symptoms were quickly improving. Tista was now able to help with the house chores and the livestock. She could even afford making long walks outside, when the weather was good. The bad news was that Litha's relationship with his brothers was now uglier than ever before. Every time Tista got better, someone would reproach Orpal for his past words, and if no one did, then Tista would. Orpal's fits of rage had really hurt her, his cruel words had shattered the image she always had of her perfect family, of her caring big brother. Tista had been humiliated and betrayed, and she was not going to forget that easily. Also, soon after hot winter baths had become available, Raz too started to bathe often. Orpal and Tryon were the only ones left out. Orpal because he could not stand the thought of having to ask something from Lith, especially if he had to do it politely. I'm the eldest brother, I'm not supposed to beg runts for favors. I'm supposed to give orders and be respected for it? That leech now has turned even the cripple against me. And I can't put Tista in her place, otherwise she will make me look like I'm the bad guy who picks on a sick little girl. Manipulative B*TCH. Tryon was between a rock and a hard place. He deeply loved Tista, but he also loved and respected Orpal. Tryon was the only one by his side, so he had not the heart to betray their bond. With everyone else fresh and clean, their smell stuck out like a sore thumb. Even with all their family goodwill, disgusted grimaces were impossible to avoid from time to time. The first time Tista dubbed the duo as Orpup and Tirik, she brought down the house with laughter. Orpal and Tryon blamed Lith for their humiliation, but he just ignored them like he always did. Raz made for Lith a pair of snowshoes, spending more and more time with him. Raz also started imparting him lessons about how to operate a farm and teaching how to whittle. Lith was still very young, but knowing he was able to skin and gut his game, Raz thought there was no risk for him in handling a carving knife. Orpal and Tryon lived the situation differently, though. Until then, Lith had spent most of his time with the girls, letting Raz spend all his free time with the boys. They felt wronged twice, once because Lith was robbing them of their dad time, the second because he always refused teaching them whittling before they reached the age of 8. Things got even more unpleasant for Lith after midwinter. Every time he would treat Tista, he could notice that something was off. Both his mother and sister had an odd look in their eyes. Often, they would open their mouth, only to close them right away, giving him the silent treatment for hours. Lith couldn't figure out the reason of this behavior, so his mind started spinning like crazy. Do they believe me a pervert? Have I looked at them in an inappropriate way? Maybe they are starting to suspect something. Maybe they know I am from a different world. Lith's full-blown paranoia wouldn't give him a second of rest, preventing him to have a good night of sleep. He heard them sighing too often, something was definitely off. It took Lith all his courage to muster the strength to face them and ask for the truth. The confrontation took place in the girls' room, where they were all gathered for Tista's treatment. Lith, did you really not notice any changes? Alina asked, pouting. Yes, I did. Tista is feeling much better now, right? Of course there's that. But don't you notice anything here? She waved her hand, going from Tista's head to toes. That's my sister. And? She prompted. Her health is getting better, nothing is getting worse. Tista is still Tista. For the first time in his 3 lives, Lith could spectate with his own eyes a synchronized facepalm outside internet meme gifs. Rena was fuming. Really? Don't you notice that her hair is soft and silky? That it never tangles or gets split ends? Tista had light brown hair with shades of purple all over them. Ever since the treatment began, the color had got more vibrant and visible. Shades of purple, this is really another world after all. I wonder why women do have them and men do not. Lith thought. Now that you mention it, yes I do. But normally I don't care for hair, I keep mine short for a reason. Rena shook her head. Don't you even notice that her skin has got smoother? With no imperfections. That she is growing taller and slender than her peers. Lith kept scratching his head. He knew nothing about the average girl. Also, they were simply describing the side effects of removing impurities. And why is that a problem? Aren't those all good things? This time even Tista joined the facepalm. They are envious of those things, dummy. They just want you to do the same for them. Lith was flabbergasted by such trivial demands. All those grimaces, the silent treatment, all of it for such a stupid reason. Lith, dear, being attractive for a girl is a pretty big deal. For your sisters could mean getting the possibility to choose between just a wealthy man, and a good, wealthy man. It can affect their entire life, their happiness. That sounded right to Litha's ears. How could I have not thought of that? While for your poor mother, it means that she can finally make all those pompous, high and mighty neighbors of her, that keep bragging about having so much more money than her, flaunting all the pricey beauty creams they can afford, kicking themselves out of envy. That sounded right to Litha's ears too. He accepted with a sigh, and his life finally returned to normal. He had to spend at least 3 afternoons a week for all the treatments, but it was worth it. All that practice made his mana core grow steady and fast, his control of mana and cast speed improved by leap and bounds. Right before the end of winter, he was forced to take in a new customer. With the weather improving, the neighboring families started meeting often. Sometimes for a visit, more often they would simply bump into each other while trading goods at the village. And that was driving Raz crazy. Lith, you have to help me. His plea was desperate. Your mother looks at least 10 years younger, and I am starting to look more like her father rather than her husband. People keep murmuring how she was unfortunate marrying me, that she could have got so much better. Please do your thing on me too. Lith had heard the rumors. They were mean and petty, and deserved to be faced head-on. He would not allow anyone to speak ill of his dad. Fine, but only at some conditions, the same I asked from Mom. 1. Secrecy. Nobody must ever know outside you and me. Think of all the bad people that could want to exploit me. Raz nodded. Second, you will never talk about it with Orpal or Tryon, nor ask me to do it for them. I don't care if they fall on love or want to marry. They made pretty clear what they feel toward me and Tista. I will not endanger my safety for them. Take it or leave it. Raz wanted to object, remind Lith that they were family too. But their behavior had only gotten worse after being forced to spend so much time together during winter. Raz had to scold them multiple times just to make them behave properly. I can only hope that when they grow up, my sons will be able to mend their relationship. I can't force them to get along. And so, he accepted. A few weeks later, Lith was headed to Celia's house for the usual cleaning, before going hunting. The dawn's light made the world around him look like out of a fairy tale. The thin layer of snow was immaculate, reflecting the orange light over the weeds and trees along the way. His surroundings were completely silent, the world still and at peace. At the next clearing, Lith took out the magic stone out of his pouch, observing it in the morning light. During the winter months the magic stone had mended most of the teeth marks. Both its life force and mana flow had tremendously improved, but it was still useless as the day Lith found it. Just my luck. He sighed. I risked my life facing that reef for nothing. Let's hope I can find something in Nana's books, otherwise my only option is to find someone willing to buy it. Lith was really impatient to start his apprenticeship. It meant being finally able to study magic from books instead as a self-taught. Also, as an apprentice healer, he would get practice magic and be paid for it, gaining the village recognition and respect. So many birds with just one stone. After putting the magic stone back into the pouch, Lith arrived at his destination and opened the door. That day Celia was out of town to sell her merchandise, so she had left the door open for him. It didn't take him much time to clean everything and leave. As soon as he walked out the house, he got hit in the head by a wooden stick. Litha's eyes went blurry, he felt someone pushing him back inside, making him fall to the ground with a kick in the stomach. Look who's here, the little leech. Lith recognized that voice, he was one of Orpal's friends. 4 boys quickly surrounded Lith, kicking him while he was still down, while a 5th closed the door after checking that no one did notice them. You little arrogant piece of sh*t. Orpal told us all about you. How you humiliate him every day, how you even dare stealing his food. Yeah. Another one yelled. He is your big brother, it should be him getting the best part of the game, not you, little ungrateful runt. Less yelling and more kicking, Trant. Remember Orpal's words, if Leech gets the chance to use his magic, we are finished. Despite Lith was curling up, desperately trying to shield his head and stomach, another kick grazed his face, making one of his baby teeth fall. I know what to do. Trant moved forward gripping Litha's hands with enough strength to crush them. Let's see how he does magic without hands. By coming that close, Trant had forced his friends to stop kicking, and a moment was all that Lith needed. He released all the lightning he could muster, shocking Trant out cold. But before he could do anything else, the wooden stick hit him in the head again, making him collapse. You'd *head. How dare you hurt your seniors? You deserve to die. The beating resumed, this time with no hint of mercy or holding back. Lith started coughing blood and teeth. The 4 had him surrounded. Lith tried multiple times rolling out of the encirclement, but he would be sent back in the middle every single time. Lots of feelings were ravaging his mind, while his body was burning with pain. The spite for his brother's betrayal, the rage of being assaulted by boys with double his age and size. But most of all, he felt helpless, and afraid of death. Damn magic! What use are you if I don't have the time to concentrate? Stupid stone, I kept you hanging from my neck for months, do something. Help me. Somebody, anybody, help me. All his silent pleas went unfulfilled. While his conscience was fading, Lith started cursing himself for his weakness and helplessness. Magic, martial arts, all that careful preparation, useless. Oddly, his last thought was not for his family or revenge, but for his last opponent. If only I was as strong as a re. He stopped my spirit magic so easily by. His survival instinct kicked in, his mind and body acting in unison. By infusing himself with mana. And I can do that too. It's the same principle behind life and fire vision. With each breath he started calling upon the elemental energy, but instead of wasting time giving it a form, Lith let it merge directly with his mana core, infusing himself with earth magic. His whole body started hardening, the pain getting duller and duller. Lith also infused himself with light magic, accelerating his healing and preventing himself from losing consciousness. Soon he was able to ignore the kicks, springing back up in one fluid motion. What is earth? It's just a mix of minerals and organic matter, the same as my body. I can be immovable like a mountain. With that thought, he further hardened his head, before headbutting from below the chin of the assailant in front of him. Before the remaining three could recover from the surprise and resume the encirclement, Lith raised his guard. The left arm forward for blocking, the right arm ready to strike. Orpal's friends were scared. After Lith knocked down their leader with the headbutt, the only thing on their mind was to prevent him to use magic, so they rushed forward, not giving him time to recover. The closest assailant tried to punch Lith in the face, to disrupt any casting he could attempt. 60% of the human body is made of water. I can be formless like water. Lith's left arm, imbued with water magic, coiled around his opponent's right arm like a snake. The body burns calories to produce heat and energy. I can be destructive like fire. Fire magic burned through his muscles, granting Lith short bursts of explosive strength. By flexing his left arm, Lith broke the immobilized limb in 3 points, elbow, ulna, and radius, while his right fist hit the opponent on the nose, pulverizing it. The pain made the boy faint, his nose bleeding profusely. The remaining two fell into panic, and tried to run away. Nerves, synapses, all the information and orders in the body are transmitted via electrical impulse. I can be fast as lightning. Lith imbued all his body with air magic, becoming fast enough to blink in front of them, punching both in the gonads at the same time. All of his opponents were down, sobbing in pain or fainted. Lith spit a mouthful of blood, while contemplating the results of his last experiment. Seems that this new magic puts too much strain on my body. Maybe I'm too young, maybe I took too much damage, whatever. I have all the time in the world now. I need to decide what to do with you motherfuckers. Lith said while using light magic to heal his internal injuries. It may take a while, but you'll get my undivided attention. Enjoy your stay. Lith sat on the couch, his left hand on the chest, performing the healing. The right one was open in front of him, releasing 5 streams of lightning that enveloped the 5 boys like tendrils, making them scream with agony. Chapter 20 Breakups. The original plan was to kill them all, erase the evidence and then make Orpal have an unfortunate accident. As Lith calmed down, however, he realized that it was an idiotic plan full of holes. If 5 young men disappear suddenly in a sleepy village like Lucia, it is bound to cause a commotion. Also, Orpal knows they were here. Once he discovers they are nowhere to be found, he could come too close to the truth for comfort. I don't want to give him any kind of leverage on me. There is also the possibility that these blockheads shared their plan with their siblings. Killing is the wrong answer here, too many things can go spiraling out of control. Worst of all, if I make Orpal disappear too, the whole family would worry and grieve for him. Most certainly I don't want to turn him into a f***ing martyr. I want him to pay. To suffer for his whole f***ing life. While in deep thought, Lith would release streams of lighting from his right hand, keep the spell active for a couple of seconds, then give his assailants a few moments of relief before zapping them again. They had already lost control of their bladder and bowels multiple times. When they were not writhing in pain, they were sobbing and begging for mercy. I can't let off this trash easily either. Always remember to pause between lashes. The short interval without pain fills them of false hope that it's finally over, making the next hit more painful than the previous. To punish them is not enough, I want to break them. There were too many variables. Lith was sick of running circles, so he decided to resort to an modified version of his very first plan, back on Earth. Those guys were trash too. I wonder how they reacted after my death, when the photos got leaked all over the internet with their names tagged. Lith had a cruel smile at the thought of his revenge, backstabbing them after so many years. With a final spell, Lith made the five lose consciousness and started arranging their bodies with spirit magic. I must keep both spirit and fusion magic a secret, so I need to create a stage from which I could end up a winner with just normal magic. An encirclement is too much for a 5-year-old, I'll fan them out. He put back the wooden stick in the hand of his owner, making sure it was smeared with blood. Lith was arranging the final details, when he heard someone calling his name from afar. **T. I took too much time thinking. My family must have sent someone looking for me. This screws up a good part of my plan, damn it. I must play it by ear and hope they did not send Orpal, or it's going to get ugly. Lith looked through a window, spotting Alina approaching Celia's house with long and fast strides. Good, it's Mom. Rena or Dad would have been better, but I can work with this. When she got close enough, Lith responded to her call with a moan, slowly opening the door while begging for help. Alina started running with all her strength, and once inside what she saw was bone-chilling. There was blood everywhere, teeth on the ground, and Lith was almost unrecognizable. He was losing blood from multiple injuries. His face was swollen to the point that his eyes were barely visible amidst all the black and blue. Lith was holding his left arm like it was hurt, and just by talking he could make her notice his bleeding gums and missing teeth. Mom. Mom. Thank the gods it's you. Lith's voice was distorted by the injuries into a lisp. I was so afraid they would get up before I could call for help. They tried to kill me, Mom, and I have not the strength to fight anymore. Alina quickly embraced him, feeling him yelp and shivering from the pain caused by even such a gentle touch. My baby. My poor baby. Who did this to you? The two of them started to cry at the same time. Alina because she was scared to death, Lith because while in his mother's embrace he could finally allow himself to vent all his rage and fears. Orpal. It's all Orpal's fault. These are all his friends. They even told me their plan when they thought I was about to die. Alina was shocked by those words, refusing to believe such a terrible thing. But those five really were Orpal's closest friends. One of them, Rizal, was even holding his grandfather's wooden stick, and it was stained with blood. Alina looked at Litha's head, easily spotting the bruises and cuts shaped after the cane. Why would they assault you otherwise? And how could they possibly know that today Celia was out of town? Alina thought out loud. Among the sobbing and crying, Lith was inwardly smiling. Feeding her facts was a last resort, it would have a much deeper impact if she put the pieces together by herself. Can't you heal yourself, even a little bit? Alina's voice was full of worry, her son's condition seemed dire. Lith was expecting this question. Now that I had the time to recover, I could. But I won't. Why? That answer made no sense to her. Alina started worrying his injuries were affecting his mind. Because when you and Dad decide what to do with Orpal, I want you to take a good look of what he did to me. Lith screamed, coughing a mouthful of blood from a wound he had reopened on purpose. Orpal has always hated me. Always will. No matter if I help you all with chores or your health. He does not care how much game I bring to the table or money to our house, nothing is ever enough for him. Lith kept screaming and sobbing. Am I such an awful son, such a terrible brother to deserve this? Lith hugged her with all of his strength, bawling his eyes out. Alina was at loss for words, but only for a moment. She held her son tightly, raising him up from the ground and carrying him back home. Then she brought the whole family to Celia's house to let them witness the scene with their own eyes. The matter was too serious, she could not hide it from her children. When Orpal saw Lith, he became pale as a ghost. Alina refused to call him by his name, and if glares could kill, he was certain that she would make him leave the fields feet first. What the heck went wrong? Those morons knew the plan. They had only to rough him up. Teach him respect and humility. But most importantly to force him to shut his f***ing mouth up. Now my stupid parents will never let me hear the end of it. And when he saw all the blood on the floor, with his friends still there and out cold, he felt his life falling apart. As soon as Alina let him do it, Raz embraced Lith before checking his conditions. After that he looked around the room, easily recognizing the 5 culprits. Rena, go call their parents. Take Tista with you, I don't want her to hear what I am about to say. Raz was even paler than Orpal, clenching his fists so hard that they started to bleed. Alina had whispered to him only 3 words after coming back with Lith. Orpal did it? In the beginning, he had refused to believe that one of his beloved children could do something like that, but the truth appeared so horrifyingly simple to his eyes. No one outside of the family knew that Lith worked for Celia. No one else could possibly know that exactly on that day and time Lith would be left alone in Celia's house. But the most painful and irrefutable truth was that no one but Orpal could possibly resent Lith so much. He barely knew anyone outside of his family and their closest friends. Lith had always been working so hard to help all of them, especially Tista, that he never had the time to make friends or enemies. Raz felt those thoughts ripping his heart out of his chest, but he had to know. Did you do it? Raz looked Orpal straight in the eyes. A terrible silence fell in the room, revealing the truth that Raz was trying so hard to deny, looking for a possible alternative explanation. But there wasn't any. How could you possibly do this to your brother? Tears were streaming from his eyes. Dad, I swear, it's not like you think. I can explain. Orpal's mind was desperately trying to find a plausible excuse. Is there anything to explain? Raz roared out of anger. Aren't those your friends? Yes, but it wasn't you telling them what to do. It wasn't you planning how, when, and where to ambush Lith. Causing him to be almost beaten to the death? In the God's name, how could you possibly explain all that? Because that wasn't the plan. They didn't listen to me, just like you. You never listen to what I say. You never let me have my way, always siding with Leech and the cripple. You are never on my side. Never. They got carried away? Is that your explanation? Raz didn't know if to laugh or cry. Do you mean that ambushing and beating your brother, my son, is perfectly fine as long they do it with moderation? He raised his fist, tempted to give Orpal a taste of his own medicine, but Alina stopped him. Too much blood has already been shed today. Don't do it. You'd only harm yourself, he is beyond saving. Alina was crying too, but her face and tone were stone cold. She had already made up her mind. Raz was too broken to stand anymore, he needed to sit down on a chair, weeping. You are right, my love. I have lost count of the times I have tried to make him understand that respect is something that you must give before receiving it yourself. That we were his parents, not his friends. We are supposed to help our children understand their mistakes, not enabling them. The gods know if I haven't tried to teach him that his siblings were not his servants, that a man's authority lies in the responsibilities he shoulders, not how strong he is. I know I have not been a perfect father, but I did the best that I could. I don't know what to do with him anymore, Alina. Raz wiped his own tears, looking for his wife's support. I agree. Even now he doesn't show any remorse. He never loved his brother, stealing his food and calling him names even before Lith was able to walk. He is clearly unable to understand the enormity of what he did. I believe that if we allow this to continue, he will do it again. If not to Lith, to Tista. And I'm not going to let him doing more harm to our family. She held Raz's hand tight, searching for the strength she needed. I think we should disown him. Strip him of his name and report him together with his accomplices for attempted murder to the village militia. Thanks, my love. Raz had no more tears to cry, his resolve steeled like his voice. I don't think I had in me the strength to say it. Chapter 21 Revelations. After those words, Orpal fell to his knees. His world was crumbling beneath his feet. All he knew, all he had planned and dreamed about, had disappeared in the space of a single word. Disown. It meant that he was dishonorably banished from his own family, leaving him with nothing he could call as his own. He had just become a nameless, penniless orphan. When the parents of the other boys arrived, things escalated quickly. Seeing their boys broken and unconscious in a foreign house, stinking of their own feces and urines, they demanded for an explanation. They were all longtime friends, so it was easy for Raz making them calm down enough to have a civil conversation. Raz ordered the nameless one explain what you did. Despite being still shocked, he was already angry enough to return to his old self. If I must go down, I'll bring them all with me. We'll share the same destiny, so I won't be alone. I refuse to be the only one to pay for this. He thought. The nameless one confessed that he had always hated his brother, and how he had planned to teach him discipline and respect with the help of his friends. When he had finished, everyone in the room was appalled, refusing to believe those words. They had always known Orpal as a good, kind young man. Lith, can you tell us what happened here exactly? Lith acted like he was reluctant to leave his mother's embrace, and after a dramatic moment of pause, he stepped forward. He made sure of limping and holding his left arm, while wincing with pain at every step. As you all know, my family has a lot of expenses, and my sister is ill. So, since I am quite talented in chore magic, Celia pays me to clean her house too. I give the money to my parents, to help them make ends meet. I have carefully picked the words for this speech. Lith thought. If they don't feel pity and compassion for a beaten-up 5 years old after the sob story, these guys are full-blown psychos. Today Miss Celia is out of town, so I was alone in here when your son suddenly barged in and started beating me. He held out his arms, turning around to let them see how battered he was. I tried to defend myself, like my dad taught me, but they were too big and too strong. Lith started sobbing again. I had to use magic to defend myself, I was so scared. I really thought I was going to die. He returned between Alina's embrace, weeping non-stop. Poor kid, said Broman, Rozelle's father, picking up the wooden stick from his son's hand. This piece of trash even dared using his grandfather's only memento. Alina, Raz, Lith, I offer you my most sincere apologies. I have failed as a man and as a father, to raise such a snake in the grass. Whatever is your decision, I will comply without questions. But first. Broman splashed Rozelle's face with a bucket of dirty water to get him conscious. He needed to hear the truth from his own son. He still could not fully believe even his own eyes. Dad. What are you doing here? Rozelle held his chin that was throbbing with pain, when he suddenly recalled what had happened. All the eyes were on him, including Lith's. The same cold eyes, glowing with blue energy Lith had before unleashing lightnings. I make the questions, young man. And if you don't want another beating or worse, you'd better tell the truth. What in the gods' names were you all doing here? Terrified by both his father and his tormentor, Rozelle could only say the truth. One after the other, the 4 remaining boys were woken up and forced to tell the whole story. One of them tried to expose Litha's torture, but his father made him shut up with a strong slap in the face. 5 against a little kid, and you have the gall to blame him for going all out. Our families are friends from generations, your actions dishonoured us all. When we get back home, I will show you what real torture is. What a moron. Lith laughed inwardly. Their credibility is less than 0, they can tell whatever they want. It will only appear as the pathetic excuse of a criminal caught red-handed. Raz, what do you want us to do? Broman asked. I am going to disown Orpal, and then report all of them for attempted murder. I won't ask anything from you. We all know how hard is being a parent, especially in moments like this. I just wanted you to hear it from me, before I go to the village chief. I will not disown my son. Not yet at least. Broman said. But I can promise you that I will do nothing to defend him in any way from the consequences of his actions. And when he will be back home, I will make sure that he will never have the opportunity to harm your family again. So, they all went to Lusha, where the village chief listened to the 6 boys' confessions before pronouncing the sentence. After hearing all the facts and testimony, I hereby sentence the 6 of you to 4 hours of pillory, where you will be shaved of all your hair and whipped 10 times for your crimes. After that, you will spend 3 days in jail to reconsider your actions. Any objections? All those present shook their heads. I have a question. Lith said. For me or for the prisoners, young man? For them. Can I? But of course. Ask them whatever you want. Lith nodded, and moved in front of Razel. Did Tryon know? Of course he did. Orpal screamed. He has always stood by my side, unlike you, leech. Lith ignored him. Did he? No. Razel looked at Orpal with eyes filled with disgust. We planned everything when we were alone. Orpal said that he did not trust Tryon enough. That Tryon is a spineless coward, and that he feared that he could rat us out. Thanks. Lith then spoke to the village chief again. Could you please reduce his sentence? His sincerity helps my whole family, it clears our doubts and my brother's name as well. But of course. If the victims asks for mercy, how could I possibly refuse? Razel will only receive 5 lashes, and after the pillory time has passed, his family is free to bring him home. Is that okay for you? Lith nodded, and Broman shook Litha's hand while his wife was weeping with joy. Thanks, Lith. That means a lot for my poor Lisa. I will not forget your kindness. I'm sure you'll become a great man, just like your father. Lith was completely satisfied with that outcome. I didn't know that disowning a son, especially the firstborn, was possible. Everything went even better than I imagined. Orpal's friends can't wait to get some alone time in jail with him, and once his sentence is over, he is doomed. Either someone from the village adopts him, something that I find hard to believe, or he will be deported to the nearest orphanage. I hope to get rid of Tryon too, but maybe that's for the best. I don't think my parents can bear losing 2 sons at once. And between their happiness and getting even with that idiot, they come first by a landslide. The following days were really hard for Raz, Alina, and Tryon. The couple needed quite some time before overcoming their grief. It was really hard for them to accept that the kind and bright boy that they brought up for almost 12 years was gone forever. Even worse, they started to suspect that the Orpal they knew never really existed. Thinking back about all the bad things he did and said over the years, he might as well have been deceiving them all along. Tryon was the one having the hardest time. He had lost his favorite sibling and his family's trust at the same time. Despite Razel had cleared his name, the suspicions remain. How could he have been so close to Orpal and yet never noticing anything? I can't blame them. In their shoes I too would think of me as either a liar or a complete idiot. Tryon didn't know if to laugh or cry. Lith, Rena, and Tista, instead were having the time of their life, even if they did their best to avoid their parents to notice. They would get more and better food, clothes, and they did not have to tolerate Orpal's mean words and petty jokes anymore. Plus, there were all the gifts that 5 families sent them as an apology. Both the girls had stopped considering Orpal as a brother from the day he had proposed to get rid of Tista, calling her a cripple. Lith was above and beyond them, he never considered him his brother. His only worry was for his parents, so he tried to lessen their burden as much as he could. Litha's magic was now strong enough that he could till and plow the fields with earth magic. He could also hunt for much bigger prey, his aim set to deer, boars, and bear, whose pelt could be sold for a pretty penny. The time for the spring festival was nearing, and Lith wanted some extra pocket money to buy something nice for his parents and sisters. Tryon was still a stranger to him. The spring festival was held mid-spring, during the equinox, to celebrate the time when the light finally overcame the darkness and cold of winter. Lith was happily playing around the Tron woods, looking for the best opportunity to kill a huge boar. Damn it, its neck and skin are too thick to break with my current level of spirit magic. Fire and thunder could easily put it down, but that would mean damaging either the pelt or the meat. I need to get creative. The boar movements were easy to predict, since it would always charge in a straight line by using air fusion. Litha's body was fast enough to dodge the charges with ease, as long as he managed to prevent the beast from coming too close. When an ox went mad, my father told me that the best way to put it down is to strike at the legs, instead of the head. Once you take away their mobility, beasts like this one are easy prey. At the next charge, Lith conjured a thick layer of ice before dodging. When the boar stepped on it, it lost its footing, spinning on itself like a top. The boar crashed against the huge oak Lith had aligned it with, its bones snapping on impact. Lith closed in enough to not miss his next shot, but always keeping a safe distance. A cornered prey is the most dangerous one. Always respect the prey, never underestimate it. It only needs one hit to kill you. Lith remembered Celia's teachings. Lith made a finger gun, aligning it with his target before shooting an ice arrow that penetrated in the boar's right eye, puncturing its brain. The beast collapsed on the ground, but Lith shot another arrow in the left eye too, just to be on the safe side. Okay, dead, it's dead. Now the problem is, how the heck do I carry it out of the woods? My spirit magic may not be enough to carry a several hundred kilograms dead animal all the way until Celia's house. And even if I actually manage to do it, how can I explain it? Lith was nervously tapping with a finger on a nearby tree, trying to find a solution before having to fight to defend his game, when the dead animal suddenly disappeared. What the f***ck? Since when do boars vanish into thin air? Who's there? He promptly activated life vision, scanning the surroundings in search of his enemy, but the only living beings he could find were small birds and rodents. Okay, this is getting creepy, but I need to get my boar back. The boar appeared back, very close to Lith, making him jump away in fright. Why are you messing with me? Who are you? Lith screamed while checking out the best escape route. An invisible enemy could easily kill me. Screw the boar, I need to get out of here fast. He thought. There is no need to escape. A gentle feminine voice replied in his mind. I'm not your enemy, my host. Okay, if you want to scare the sh*t out of me, you're doing a great job. What do you mean with host? Where the heck are you? Lith kept looking around, the enemy somehow was untraceable even by his magical senses. Stop looking around, host. I'm here where you put me. Around your neck. Lith instinctively grabbed the pouch and threw it away. He could finally notice that both the life force and the mana flow of the stone were bigger than ever. Lith had always kept it in a blind spot, and since it was useless, he forgot to check it with life vision since the day of the ambush. Okay, I hate riddles. Tell me who or what you are, or I'll leave. As much as it pains me losing such a game, It's not worth having a creepy, mysterious stone talking in my head 24/7. Please, don't. To voice turned desperate. I'll die without my host. Enough with the riddles. Lith screamed out loud. What the F***ck are you? Our minds are linked, it's easier to show rather than tell. Suddenly Litha's mind was filled with images and memories that were not his own. He could have thought of having been teleported away, if the images weren't full of holes, allowing to still see part of the woods through them. I'm sorry, but my powers are almost depleted, this is the best I can do. Lith could see a gigantic tower, whose vault was so deep to reach the bottom of the ocean, its top so high to touch the sky. He could perceive that the whole structure was a giant magical artifact, pulsing with mana. At some point, the owner of the tower had died, and without his/her mana to nourish its core, the tower began to decline. Centuries passed, while the tower kept looking for its next host, using illusions to send away those it deemed not talented enough or unworthy. Over time, the tower spent all his powers, and to avoid death it had been forced to an extreme sacrifice. To prolong its existence, it started to consume its own walls, floors, everything within itself, even its memories. More centuries had passed, now only the tower core was left, barely the size of a pebble. It had nothing left, except its sense of self. Preferring death rather than becoming a mindless tool, the tower core attempted a desperate gamble. It sent a signal that any being with the bare minimum magical powers to sustain its life could perceive. The clock was ticking, every second that passed, the tower core could feel its life slip away. When the one answering the call resulted to be a the tower core had tried to communicate with no results. The beast mind was too different from the first host, making the mind link impossible. Hope was lost, the tower core could only wait for its end. But then a savior arrived, saving the tower core from the beast's maw, using his own blood to bond himself with the tower core, right before it fell into a deep slumber to recover from its wounds. The images disappeared, leaving Lith alone with the pouch and the dead boar. Litha's mind was overwhelmed, incapable of any thought outside stupid jokes. Does that make us married or what? Chapter 22 The Stone's Real Worth. Why do you say that? Well, back on my world, being bonded for life with someone you would not have any intimacy was the joke definition of marriage. That's funny. The voice chuckled. And also kind of sad. Never mind the jokes. Let me get this straight, you once were a mighty artifact, full of treasures and knowledge. But now everything you had and knew is lost, and you are diminished to the size of a marble. Am I missing something? No, all your statements are correct. Also, you did not pick me because of my talent or virtue, but simply because I possess, and I quote, the bare minimum magical powers to sustain your life. That makes me nothing more than an off-brand life support system. That is not exact. I am now bonded with you until your death do us part. That sounds more and more like marriage. Lith grunted. I am no parasite, you can see me as a symbiote. We will both benefit from our relationship. How? Are you saying that if you manage to get your strength back, you will also recover your memories and magical artifacts? No, those are lost forever. I'm just like you. When you grow up, can you spit back the food you have eaten in the past to pass it on someone else? No. The same applies to me. Then what's in for me? The pleasure of your company. At the moment all I can offer you is a pocket dimension. Say what? One moment, I'm looking at your memories to make it easier to understand. It works like a Dungeons and Looting's bag of keeping. That's interesting. Lith pondered. An interdimensional space where I can store my stuff without being hindered by its weight. How big is this pocket dimension? 10 cubic meters big. It can store anything that amounts up to such volume, no matter the weight, as long as it's something inanimate. A cruel intuition flashed in Litha's eyes. Can it also store things like lightnings, fireballs or incoming arrows? If so, it would be an invaluable tool for both offense and defense. No. The voice killed Litha's hopes. The pocket dimension is outside space and time, so it rejects both life and kinetic energy. Feeling its host disappointment, the voice added quickly. This also means that whatever you store will not rot, cool down or warm up. A roasted blinker would be kept hot and tasty, frozen in the moment you finished cooking it. That barely qualifies as a silver lining. Despite their chat was quite long, it was only happening inside their minds. Barely a second had passed after Lith had access to the stone memories. Whatever. At least you saved me from my current predicament. Now I know how to bring the boar back, I just need a decent excuse to explain how I managed it. The stone mind shrugged. Keep it simple. Drop it to the edge of the woods, and tell Celia that you managed to kite it to that spot before killing it. It should be easier to believe that the truth. Lith nodded. Resourceful and smart. The fact that our minds are linked still creeps me out, but thanks to that I can see you have no malice or hidden agenda towards me. If you really are what you say to be, I'll keep you. True loyalty is a too rare commodity to turn it down when you find it. So, until I am convinced of your good faith, consider yourself on probation. Lith put the pouch back at his neck and the boar in the pocket dimension. By the way, I can't keep calling you End Stone. Don't you have a name? No. The voice sounded really sad. It's lost, like everything else. Don't be a pouter. A name is just a name. You can call me Derek, Lith, Host, CZ Delta, whatever. I'll always be the same cynic, misanthropic, lying, cutthroat guy I have always been. Would you like me to name you? Yes, please. Lith had it ready since he heard the Tower Core's story. You are supposed to be a great artifact, so I'll name you after the greatest, albeit fictional, magical forge master that I always admired when I was a kid. Solus. Thank you, Lith. I like how it sounds. And I really appreciate you named me after someone you loved, rather than give me a pet name like Happy or Lucky. Lith had the odd feeling Solus was mind-blushing. They spent all the time on the way back chatting. Lith was really interested in understanding the limits and use of his new partner's skill set. After assessing that both Lith and Solus could activate the pocket dimension, he proceeded to pick the right spot. It needed to be close enough to the edge of the woods and covered enough to make spotting the boar from a distance impossible. There are countless things that can go wrong leaving a dead animal alone, even for a few minutes. A passerby that then claims it's his kill, a scavenger believing to have lucked out a free meal, take your pick. With my luck, I never trust the odds. You trust no one. Solus turned to a flat tone. You bet. That's life rule number 1. Rule number 2 is no good deed goes unpunished. Lith then used earth and wind magic to mess up the surroundings, mimicking the signs of struggle left by his previous fight with the boar. Bah! All this effort and I get such a sloppy result. If Celia throws a second glance at this scene, she'll expose my lie. I can only hope the prize catches her eyes enough to not make any question. He then gently dropped the pouch on the ground. As soon as you receive my signal, take the boar out the pocket dimension. I'll be back in a jiffy. Without waiting for a reply, Lith started running at full speed towards Celia's house. Once out of their mind link range, 10 meters/10.9 yards, Lith could finally breathe a sigh of relief. Damn it, leaving her like that was D**CK move. She surely knows the real reasons why I did it. It's hard to accept someone else in your head, reading every single of your most embarrassing thoughts and memories. Not to mention that in DNL every sentient artifact was usually a bag full of troubles, trying to mind control the owner or something. I know that it's just fiction, but still. What if I just stumbled in this world's lone ring, like in Vasily Bolkian's books? Lith shrugged his head, his body covered in cold sweat. I bet that as soon we are back together, she will have access to this inner monologue too. F***C my life. No pain, no gain. If she really is what she says, she's worth the risk. At least I'll have someone who finally knows the real me. A few minutes later, Celia and Lith were approaching the drop spot, riding the 2-horse cart she used to move around the heaviest goods. Is it really that big to require 2 horses? She asked skeptically. I think one should be enough to move it once it's loaded. The second is necessary to drag it on the cart easily. Once Lith and Celia jumped down their ride, he gave Solus the signal. Celia detached the horses, guiding them by the bridle. Lith took with him the thick ropes necessary to make a harness for the boar, making it easy for the horses to drag it out of the woods and into the cart. When Celia saw the game with her own eyes, she whistled with approval. Good gods! This thing must be around 300 kilograms, 661 pounds. You weren't boasting as usual. I never boast. Lith used spirit magic to stealthily recover the pouch, while Celia was engrossed sizing the beast. Please, all men do. Celia clicked her tongue. You are not an exception. With all your magic and secrets, do you want me to believe you do not enjoy your short, dark, and teethless act? She added, laughing out loud. It's not my fault I have a lisp now. Lith was pissed off by her non-stop mockery of his new voice. Will you ever let me hear the end of it? I'm sorry, I really am. It's just that your tough boy attitude is even more hilarious now that you have a lisp. The first time she had heard him call her Philia, she had laughed hard enough to fall from her chair, hugging her belly. Judging from its size, it was really close to become a magical beast. We could have sold it for a much bigger sum, it's kind of sad. She sighed. Yeah, and if it was a magical beast, I would be much deader now. Lith rebuked. They kept bickering until the boar was safe and sound on the cart. Only once they got back to her house and started bleeding out the game, Celia got her business attitude back. The most valuable piece is the head. If we can find a noble willing to stuff it, hang it over his fireplace and take the credit for the kill, we can sell it really well. The pelt and the meat are nothing special, do you have any plans about them? Lith nodded. All this meat will allow me to skip hunting for a while, so I prefer to keep and maturate it. As for the pelt, it should make a nice carpet for my parents' bedroom. Always a family boy, huh? Celia ruffled his hair, this time there was no mockery in her voice. I'm so proud of you being so considerate toward your family that I'll tan it for free. I still get half of the head price, though. Perfect. Good. Our best shot is with Count Lark himself. He is both loaded and very proud of his hunting skills. I must reach my contacts in his manor to test the waters. Fingers crossed. Lith suffered at the idea of losing so much money, but half was better than nothing. He didn't know how to tan pelts or stuff heads, and lacked both time and instruments to do it. And even if he did, he had no way to sell the merchandise outside his little village. After Lith left Celia, he and Solus started chatting again, feigning ignorance about each other's feelings. Solus, I think that your help will be invaluable to bring my martial arts training to the next level. Chapter 23 Hard to hear. Until that moment, Litha's martial training had been really sloppy. Despite all his efforts, in a whole year of practice he had barely managed to regain the skill level of a 4th Q of Aikido, the equivalent of an orange belt for karate. The only aspects he had managed to step up to the 3NDQ, the equivalent of a green belt for karate, were the footwork and the fall techniques, and that because the initial progression depended completely on him. Without a sparring partner, someone that could watch his moves and help him correct his mistakes, there was only so much that he could do. He could either make a mud dummy move or train himself, he was not at the point that he could do both at the same time. Making a rough mud doll perform human-like movements required a lot of concentration. That meant that he could only put the dummies in position and then practice while they were once again still. Litha's body was even clumsier than his original one back on Earth. To make real progress he needed to be hit, to be thrown around, to practice all his moves on a moving target. But Lith couldn't ask for help from anyone. How could he possibly explain that he wanted to practice alien martial arts? What help could anyone give him, not even knowing the basics of the basics? That's why he usually practiced in the middle of the night. And solace was the perfect solution for his problem. After further merging their minds, they had discovered new uses for the tower core. Lith had just to plant her into a mud doll to turn it into a quasi-golem, finally getting his sparring partner. Solus had all the human senses and more, and with Lith's permission, she could consume his mana to perform spells he knew in his stead. Her nature was that of a magic tower. She was supposed to oversee her countless floors and devices. Even in her weakened state, moving a poor excuse of a mud golem was easier than pie. Solus further improved Litha's idea, managing to make the golem's body soften at the right times, before hitting or being hit. This way she was able to put enough strain on Litha's body to train it, and avoid any possible injury by accident. She also had access to all his memories, including all of his master's teachings. Solus was able to use those memories to correct Litha's mistakes and help him improve by leap and bounds. Thanks to invigoration, Lith was now able to stay awake for a whole month before his performances started declining, forcing him to rest. So, thanks to Solus, whenever he would meet a bottleneck, he would train martial arts. He only needed to take a short break when the fatigue became too much. Light magic would mend his muscles, making them recover and grow stronger in a matter of minutes, dissipating the accumulated lactic acid at the same time. During those moments, Lith and Solus would chat heart to heart. So, what do you plan to do in the future? Why do you put so much effort in all this training? Magic, martial arts, hunting. Why don't you stop from time to time, just for smelling the roses? Solus asked. Whenever I do stop, I start thinking about the future. And that scares me to death. I already know that death is a trap, forcing me to switch one hell with another. I don't want to live all my life in a small village, just the idea is equivalent to the death penalty. Doing the same routine every day, in a prison without bars where I am forced to lie every single day, waiting to die and start all over again. I can't bear this thought. My plan is to test this body's limits, get as strong as I can, so that once I reach adulthood, I will be able to explore this world, and see if it's worth living in. If either this body or this world meet my expectation, I will strive all my life to find a way to prevent me passing into another world after my death. How? I don't know, I'm still as ignorant as a baby about magic. All I know is its practical use. I have no idea if it's possible to create magical artifacts. But if my hypothesis is right, I could become a lich. Even better, I could find a way to bind my soul to this world, so that in case of death I would remain here, possessing the nearest available corpse. I hope that when push comes the shove, I will also have found a way to retain both my magic core and muscle memory. And what if both the world and your body fail you? In that case, I would not mind starting my journey once again. If I have to live a SHTTY life in a SHTTY world, might as well depart early. I'll keep moving around until I roll my 100, and get born as a perfectly healthy young master of a filthy rich family, a chosen one or whatever. Is just a matter of luck. What about your family? Are you going to abandon them like that? Lith pondered seriously about that matter. Of course not. Making them lose their son, their brother for no reason, without even giving them a body to bury is too cruel, even for me. I'll stick around until my family needs me before checking out. Solus giggled. Don't you see? Things are not actually all black and white as you make them. When you awoke in this world, you couldn't wait to die. To reroll as you say. Then you chose to stay for the magic. Now you are willing to continue this life for someone else's sake. Give yourself some time. The bad people you met have reinforced your bias on life, but the good people are also slowly changing you. At the beginning you couldn't care less about Tista's life, now it's all you think about. You hated both Alina and Raz even before knowing them, because of your issues with parental figures. They are not your parents back on Earth, this planet is not Earth. Give it a chance before doing something so extreme. How do I know you are not telling me all this stuff only to keep your host? Easy peasy, read my mind. After checking it thrice, Lith could not find any hidden agenda or egotistical reason. Damn it, all this mind link stuff is so irritating. I cannot get out of this argument with mistrust or doubts. It's my loss. For now, at least. You are barely a month old, life will change you. It always does. Solus giggled again. Or maybe it will change you, and you will start warming up to me. And then you will have to take care of me for your whole life, hubby. Lith felt a cold chill run down his spine. Please, don't call me like that. I'm ready to go again. Don't go easy on me. I never do. Solus replied, getting on Lith's already shaken nerves. Thanks to all that exercise, Lith would quickly overcome any bottlenecks, and soon he could feel the bottled up impurities trying to find their way out again. Lith had pondered if it was the case of getting rid of the impurities in the same way he did for the rest of his family, but after discussing it with Solus, he decided not to. The purification treatment he had devised for Tista was an artificial method, and even though it gave the same benefits in terms of physical appearance and resistance to illness, their magic power and physical prowess never got enhanced. Lith had no idea why the impurities had to travel to the mana core before getting expelled, inflicting such excruciating pain. But it was worth the cost. It happened during one of their sparring sessions. As soon as Lith realized what was happening, he quickly undressed himself to not taint his clothes. This time he offered no resistance, discovering that it wasn't so painful after all. Lith puked much more impurities than the last time, letting them came out of all his pores and orifices. The stench was so bad he was about to faint before managing to destroy them with dark magic. He was completely exhausted, this time not even invigoration could replenish his energies, he needed to sleep. After a bath. I stink so bad I could raise the dead. Solus ignored the obvious remark. It's exactly as you remembered. Whatever happens to you, is like a sword getting tempered and purified at the same time. Both your body and mana core had undergone qualitative changes again. I think your potential skyrocketed, promoting you from my bare minimum requirements. You still need to work hard to develop it, though. And so, Lith continued his routine until the day of the spring festival came. Part 2 of the series ends here. If you enjoyed it, please give us a like and subscribe so we can be motivated to make even better videos in the future.